Back with another video again, everyone, and today we are going to be talking about the legendary manga known as Vagabond. Vagabond, I haven't done a video on yet, and it's kind of dumb because it's actually one of my favorite manga series of all time. It's the first seinen manga I ever got into, and let me tell you, it's an absolute masterpiece. It's been a minute since I last read it. It's been a minute since I checked it out, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it is one of my favorite manga of all time. And I know that I say this for every freaking review video I do, but truthfully, this is in my top 5, top 3 even. So this video is going to be dedicated to Vagabond. I'm going to be talking about why Vagabond is an absolute masterpiece. Before I do, sub to the channel if you're new. Of course, we're trying to hit that big 1K, so make sure you sub to the channel if you are not. Look at this monstrosity on the screen right now, please. Look at the numbers. 98% of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed. 98%. Do you know how much percent that is? If you know math, you know how ridiculous that is. So subscribe to the channel, please. Now that I've spent 30 seconds talking about subbing to the channel, let's talk about Vagabond. So, for those of you that do not know what Vagabond is, it is of course a manga series, and it is based on a true story of a Japanese swordsman in the 1600s named Miyamoto Musashi. And basically what the story is this Musashi person travels through Japan and he fights other samurai, he fights other swordsmen, and that's basically his life story. The entire show is around this one character. It's like his life story. It's like a first person point of view of Musashi's life. And the crazy thing about this is that this actually happened. Like, when you read this, you gotta think to yourself, this actually happened. This was real and it happened once before in the past. It's actual history. If you've read the book of 5 Rings, that was written by Miyamoto Musashi himself. It's a book about his swordsmanship and his tricks that he used in battle. But there is a manga series, of course. It is written by Takehiko Inoue. Inoue is a very famous mangaka. He has done manga series like Slam Dunk. He's done Real. I haven't read either of those series. I do plan to in the future. But Vagabond is his first creation that I got into. That's how I got into Inoue. And Vagabond for me is a manga that not many people give enough credit to. It's a manga that is not credited nearly as much as it deserves. It is an absolute masterpiece. And the first thing I want to talk about is the artwork. I talked about this in the Berserk video, that Berserk has some of the best artwork in any manga I've read. And the only thing that really comes close to is Vagabond. Yeah, like, it's true. Vagabond comes close with Berserk. Some people even have it above Berserk, which I completely respect. The artwork in Vagabond is absolutely freaking beautiful. It is gorgeous. It is some of the best artwork. There have to be museums for this kind of stuff. Like, it's crazy how there are no museums for Vagabond artworks. Absolutely gorgeous. Some scenes here I'm going to throw on the screen right now. The fact that Takehiko Inoue was able to draw these scenes with a paintbrush is insane. That's right, he draws his paintings. He draws these manga panels with paintbrushes, not even a pen. And the thing that is different about Vagabond artwork versus Berserk artwork is that Vagabond artwork is very realistic. If you think about Berserk artworks, we think about like the crazy scenes of Guts fighting the apostles and like the monsters and the magic and all that stuff. But Vagabond, since it's based on a real story, it all has realistic elements. It has all these like paintings of like mountains, trees, oceans, all these beautiful landscapes that Inoue draws. And then he draws Musashi so beautifully. It's like Musashi has this presence amongst everyone else. That's just the beauty of his artwork. And another thing about his artwork that is so original, similar to Berserk again, yes, these two have a lot in common, but similar to Berserk, Vagabond's artwork makes you feel like you are literally there. As I mentioned before, it's a first person point of view of Miyamoto Musashi, the protagonist, and it literally makes you feel as though you are in there, in person. Some of the fights, you get completely sucked into your screen because you feel like you were there watching the fight in person. It's absolutely beautiful, and Vagabond has some of the greatest artwork, not only in manga, but that I've ever seen, period. So now I want to take this time and talk about the character, specifically Musashi Miyamoto. I've spoken his name many times, but if you have not seen Vagabond, you don't know what the hell I'm talking about. This character rivals Guts from Berserk. Yes, Guts from Berserk is rivaled by this character. They are both, in my opinion, the two greatest characters in fiction, period. Now, obviously, you guys have your own opinions, but If you read Vagabond and you truly pay attention to the development and the writing and the beauty of Musashi's character, you will 100% fall in love with this character. There's absolutely no chance you don't. He is a one-of-a-kind character, and the thing about him, the one of many things about him that makes him so different from the rest of the characters, is how deep you really go into his character. And I'm talking like deep, like guts level deep. Like, you analyze his character so much throughout the story. You see so many of his emotions, how he feels in every battle, how he reconsiders his opinions. When he makes a decision to keep going to this other place to fight this other person, you see how he reconsiders and he thinks, why did I do this? Is this really my goal? And at the beginning of the story, his goal is to become invincible. Invincible under the sun. That's like his main phrase. That's what he wants to become, right? And similar to Guts in the Black Swordsman at the beginning of the story, he's kind of like an evil, like anti-hero, and he's very like villain-like, right? He attacks the people. He doesn't really care. He's pretty bloodthirsty. He's kind of a demon. They call him Demon Child at the beginning of the story for a reason, after all. And what he wants to do is he keeps slashing down enemies until he becomes invincible under the sun. That is his ultimate goal. And now when he gets defeated for the first time, he gets captured by this man named Takwon. I don't want to spoil too much, of course, but when he gets captured, this man Takwon, he comes up to him and he straight up tells him that he's the weakest one in the village because he has no heart. He mentions this thing where all strong people are truly kind. And this leads into another segue that I want to talk about in Vagabond, which is the lessons that it teaches you. In terms of philosophy, in lessons, Vagabond is the king. Undoubtedly the king. It teaches you so many things. There's a quote from Vagabond. It's my favorite quote in Vagabond, in manga, period. And it goes like this. Preoccupied with a single leaf, you will not see the tree. Preoccupied with a single tree, you will not see the forest. And that quote right there absolutely is brilliant. It sums up Musashi because he's preoccupied on becoming invincible, when in reality he does not see the full forest. Another quote states, when one stands in the middle of an ocean, he cannot see how truly vast it is. That is a quote mentioned by another elder in the story. And that again sums up Musashi's character at that point, because he's sitting in the middle of the ocean and only seeing the invincible part. Invincible is merely a word they mentioned later in the story, and Musashi's character develops into a grown man. He realizes that he has wasted all this time going after a single thing. That teaches you so many things, because in real life, it's true. We get so preoccupied with a single goal that we don't realize who we're affecting around us. We don't realize what we are doing on the outside. That is such a brilliant philosophy they cover in Vagabond. It is absolutely beautiful how they cover that. But yes, of course, Musashi's character, as I mentioned, without spoiling, he is an absolutely brilliant character. How deep you go into him. Musashi versus Inshun was one of the greatest fights in the entire series, simply because of how focused that fight was. Not a single swing happened in that fight. They were both staring each other down for the entire time, and yet is one of the greatest fights in manga that I've ever witnessed. And that is not an exaggeration. That is just facts. I've talked about Musashi and I've talked about the basic storyline. Now I'm going to mention some more side things. The relationship that Musashi has with Otsu is similar to what Guts has with Kasuga, except a bit less relevant in the plot. Musashi has this relationship with Otsu, the main female character in the series, where he constantly debates with himself, should I go back to her or should I continue down my path becoming invincible? And that struggle in his mind is absolutely brilliant. The mental struggle this character goes through the series is just beautiful. And I've mentioned beautiful, masterful, masterpiece so many times in this video. That is the only thing that sums up this show perfectly. Sasaki Kojiro and Matahachi Honaiden are both great parallels to Musashi, both in two completely different ways. Kojiro being in a way a complete rival with Musashi, he was set up to be the final antagonist in the series, and he serves an antagonistic role towards the end of the series. Unfortunately though, as we all know, Vagabond suffers from, yes, hiatus, yeah. Even with the hiatus, Vagabond is still one of the greatest manga out there. And as I mentioned before, Kojiro is a phenomenal parallel with Musashi, as they are both the strongest ever, the strongest swordsman at the time. And their clash was going to happen at the end of the series. However, again, it went on hiatus which I don't fault Inoue for. And Matahachi Honaiden was the other character I was going to mention in this video. Now, he is a very realistic character. Now, he may be a character who you kind of hate at the beginning of the story, even towards the end. If you are only looking at him in one direction, you will not like this character. But if you really take the time and understand his purpose in the story, he is a great character. In fact, he's one of the greatest written side characters, I believe. Now, what makes him so great is that he's so realistic. While Musashi is the character that we want to be that swordsman who's strong. He's stronger than everyone else. Matahachi is that character on the side who most of us really are. We're that person who keeps wanting to be the strongest, but is just too lazy and too stupid to do so. You constantly see Matahachi going around getting drunk, being stupid, being dumb, and that's his character. He's a realistic character who's lazy, and he develops into a very, very good side character, as I mentioned, one of the best. But to summarize, Vagabond is one of my favorite manga of all time, and Vagabond is a very underrated series. It's a realistic story, and the artwork in it is absolutely brilliant. Musashi is undoubtedly one of the greatest protagonists and characters in any anime and manga ever. That is without a doubt, as I just mentioned. But if you have not read Vagabond, I absolutely implore you to read Vagabond. If you are a Berserk fan and you have not read Vagabond, it will be very close to Berserk for you, I believe. So make sure you check out Vagabond if you get the chance. Add it to your read list, and trust me, you will not regret it. But that's going to do it for this video. Of course, drop a like, as I mentioned before, and sub to the channel. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Many different videos coming out in the future, so you do not want to miss those. And as always, take care and peace.